Hello and welcome to Priority Parenting. This is your first episode and I am Dawood Waeed from skyeducation.in. Well, why priority? Imagine boarding a flight and there is a long queue and suddenly somebody comes and says, "Hello sir, I would like you to be on the first seat. You are a priority passenger." I think parenting is our priority, and this is why these episodes and webinars are so important. Think of a small card where the father and the mother are holding hands and the kids are holding theirs. And when you turn it around, it's a circle. That is what parenting is. It's a circle that binds the family together. And the thread that holds us together is love, understanding, is the very idea that pushes us to be wonderful fathers, dedicated fathers, and loving mothers, caring mothers. So what do we talk about today? In the first episode, I'm going to talk about something which is so close, called boys will be boys. And yes, they will always be. And how do boys love? What do they like? Running around? Cars? Fighting? Guns? What else would they want to do? And imagine a family with 4 boys. Yes, if you know the Scavo family from Desperate Housewife, I'm talking about Lynette Scavo. Lynette is an amazing lady, a super mom you can call her. She lives in a world of the perfect motherhood. She's the one who fights for her children. She loves her kids. She's the one who spoke to Bree to get the admission in the best school they can. She makes cakes for them. She hosts parties for them. She gate crashes party for them. But then what happens? Because she could not cope up with the pressure of having these boys running around, having complaints from neighbors, finding complaints at school, scribbling, fighting, biting, she started taking the ADHD pills that were supposed to be for their own children. That did give her energy, but that also gave her insomnia. It took away her dreams. It actually literally took away the sleep that she was getting at night. And she got tired in daytime and it messed them up. What is that Lynette's feeling that we have? I love the way Lynette spoke. She says, "I love my kids so much. I'm so sorry they have me as a mother." No, Lynette, be proud of you, the way you take care of your children, and that is what we want to talk about. How do you raise boys? Parents aren't the people you come from. They are the people you want to be when you grow up. This quote is a reflection of what we are speaking about. As parents, what do we do? So now let's take up our parent and let's call her Lynette as a symbolic gesture to this wonderful super mom and how she raises her 2 sons, Jason age 7 and David age 11. So now as a parent, she was a wonderful mother. She would also go out, come home, have office calls to work with, but one day she looked desperate. And when I speak about it, you might be wondering, what is it about fathers in there? This one statement is all going to make a difference. When the father opened the door, he saw his wife not the same. She was exhausted, usual, but her look was not the usual one. And this is where all the good fathers do. And the entire case study is about raising boys, but the father's role is they are standing up for their mother. And I repeat, the best gift a father can give the children is to love the mother. So the father saw the fatigue had set in and something was terribly wrong. And he said, "Can I help?" "It's David," she said. She was apologetic, but then she said that I can't seem to control David. David, all of 11 years, he was a beautiful, brilliant kid. As a kid, he was spirited, curious, but also volatile. Jason and David were the best thing that have happened to them. But something was different about David. David, even as an infant, was someone who was wired a little differently. He was cute, affectionate, very cuddly, but also unpredictable. He was prone to occasional bursts of temper. In a party other day, David, when he was 8 years old and Lynette goes there, suddenly David does not like the salad and he threw a tantrum. It ended up spoiling the entire party, and of course the salad was down the drain. Now the father and the mother, they decide that they go to a psychiatrist. So when David was almost around 9 years, they went to psychiatrist an educational specialist, and this specialist said that David has ADHD. He gave him some medication. Lynette was not the mother who would take medication, but then she didn't know what to do, so she agreed for the medication, and to some extent his behavior seemed to be curtailed, did not stop, at least for 6 months of medication, and it went on. I know a personal case when a father came and a good friend of mine said, throw away the medication, it's only harming your child. Believe me, I'm not against ADHD, attention deficit hyperactive, this syndrome, the way we are talking about disorder here. We are saying that don't go for medication, they'll have immense side effect and long-term effect. But then a desperate mother, what would she do? She didn't understand her son's behavior. One minute he would be joking at dinner, the next minute he would erupt and start yelling from the table. He would be jumping on his father. He would be, running around the house. In fact, just 2 nights back, this is Lynette's case study, he ran out of home in the middle of the night. It was good that some people at Walmart or close by Reliance store found him and they sent him home. So now what happens? Lynette began to cry. Her son, the apple of her eye, his father's eye, both their eyes, was suddenly the troubled kid. He was that kid that every mother would dread to have. He had no friends. His dress was never in order and nobody in school wanted to have him. Lynette started crying. Where did I go wrong? What did I do? I have trained him to the best. We have given the best food. We have made the best school for him. And then it went to the extreme when he grew 11 years old. One day he did not like his mother's cooking and he pushed her. He pushed the mother. David pushed Lynette so hard, Lynette fell down, hurt her head. She had bruises and she was scared of him. There were times when Lynette would cry, David would cry, and the father would have no idea what's happening in the house. That was a time Lynette decided it's enough and she has to be a mother she always dreamt of. Lynette said, I cannot be just someone who looks at my child and lets him go waste. That perhaps was the best day of her life. It was a turning point. It was a moment when Lynette faced her own demons. This freedom that Lynette had was so exhilarating, also overwhelming, but she knew she had to understand her son. She started looking at the hidden anger she herself had when she was a kid. Excuse me. She remembered the time when she was a small kid, and at that time she was assaulted by a male neighbor and she had told nobody about it. Not her parents, not her husband, not even when she grew up. And for that she hated men. And for some complex reason, excuse me, we got real cough and cold out here, but for some complex reason, when Jason was born, she said, I'm going to love him the way I've never loved men. She was overprotective about her son. But then also there will be time when she'll put her rage on the son, especially as he keep growing up. She realized when Jason and the youngest son and David, when they were running around, her own behavior would change. She would be sometimes happy when they would be, losing out. She realized it was her own demons. The way she was talking as a child was very, very wrong. And the best part is, David was not immune to the secret war his mother was having with herself. David knew the anger the mother had towards him. David knew that this was a circle and all he was doing was isolating himself. Both David and Lynette understood they needed each other to understand the joy of lovely family. When both were schooled, when both of them started thinking about their feelings, the boy is in particular understood the mother has trouble. More than the child, it's not the ADHD of the child, it's the thinking of the mother. That's when the father came in. He became the mediator. He became the counselor. He became the one who would hear both of them. They were happy. Now, whenever Lynette has these outbursts of emotion, Lynette goes back and speaks to the husband. The husband understands. He says Lynette to take an off day today. He would spend time with the kids, and now David understands the mother. It's the mother who need to grow up before the son grew up. Believe me, Lynette and David are the lucky ones. How many mother and son can exist like this? You don't know the pressures you're exerting on your children. You don't even know that sometimes it's not the behavior of your child that's affecting, it's your own behavior. I remember when my daughter was very young and she would cry and my wife would get completely upset, and believe me, she's 10 times a better parent than I am. But one thing I used to tell her, and believe me, it worked. All I used to tell her is leave the room, go out. Just leave. And that 5 minutes of isolation will make her so much better. She will make her so strong. She would not have outbursts. She will not spill any anger on the child. And when she comes back, she'll be a new mother. And that's what fathers do. Fathers are the referees in the child's life. They coach, they mentor, they are there for them. As we end, I always will give you a reference book, and one of my favorite thinkers in parenting is Michael Gurian. Michael Gurian has written some amazing books on strategies for raising boys and girls. In this particular book, called The Wonders of Boys, he writes the academic trouble that many boys face. He cites case studies that actually boys receive lower grades in higher school. He tells us that 8th grader boys are held back 50% more frequently than girls. 2/3 of the students in special education classes are boys. And finally he says, boys are 10 times more likely to suffer from hyperactivity and 71% more likely candidates for school suspension. So what about all these statistics? He says all they need is not punishment and detention and suspension. They need somebody to understand them. And who better than fathers who grew up as boys? As we say, boys will always be. So my friends, my fathers, my pals, I have a case study for Lynette, the mother, but actually it's a solution for you, the father. Boys, let's become men now. Thank you so much. You can visit us on skyeducation.in. Thank you for listening. Wait for the second episode of Priority Parenting. Until then, good luck and goodbye.